Hi, Milan. Good
Hi,
morning.
Kiran. Good morning. How are you?
Things are good in Bombay. Welcome to our first video in our series of conversations with veteran founders and the steadfastness at which you have been approaching healthcare. So, just for the audience's benefit, if we could just introduce you to them. This is Milan Nayak of Vitor Health, and he's had a very illustrious background, and I'd love for us to hear it from the devil himself. So, Milan, if you don't mind.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Kiran. Hi, everyone. I'm Milind. Uh, 30 years of experience in IT. Uh, been there, done that kind of a thing. Roughly around 8 years now in health tech. Uh, and more focused towards preventive health as such. I think that the landscape for things in India are great when it comes to health right now. In fact, globally, it's a huge opportunity. And India being at the place that it is, I think it's the right place to be. Education and health are two things. So yeah, look forward to having a good discussion with you and see if whatever I say makes sense to other people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Milind. And hi, everyone. I'm your host. My name is Kiran Reddy, and welcome to Head Start and Intuit Circle's inaugural video and session. So, we are going to be diving into a quick conversation with Milind about how we are going to address our challenge as humanity for healthcare, and we realize that a responsive healthcare is not the only approach. There is a larger well-being component and knowledge access, information, as well as awareness required. And Milind has been advocating preventive healthcare. I met him 2 years ago, and he's been kind enough to agree to join us today. So, Milind, a little bit about what is healthcare system today, and how do startups approach health as a segment today?
So actually, healthcare as a segment is huge, right? So today, uh, the healthcare so that all of us talk about today is more of curative care. That is what everybody has ideas about: hospitals, doctors, pathology labs, and so on and so forth. But healthcare is beyond that. It's a yin and yang of an individual. Is what is health and care, right? Health is just a component of it. Today, having peace of mind is also related to healthcare, right? Today, eating right is a part of healthcare. Today, trying to uh, walk or trying to do some form of physical activity is a sort of healthcare. So, if ever you look at the whole segmentization of healthcare, is starting from preventive to preemptive to curative as such, right? Uh, Bad luck for us is today we get into the healthcare system, so to say, when we are sick, right? But there is a lot more beyond that. If ever I were to ask you a simple question, out of the 100 people that you know of, how many of them are sick or in the hospital, right? Maybe not more than two or three, right? But if ever I were to ask you that how many of them are unhealthy, that would be a large number, right? And unhealthy could be your habits, could be your diet, could be the tension that you take, the kind of work culture that you have, and so on and so forth. So we need to look at healthcare in a much more larger spectrum than just being sick uh, or in a hospital. Is what I would say healthcare is all about.
So, just adding to that, like I've heard this buzzword floating around a lot: holistic health and holistic well-being. And I want to know what your take is on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual components. I'm a spiritual guy. We can drop that if you like. But
Agreed. So let's understand that today healthcare is a very black and white. Either you're healthy or you're unhealthy, right?
hmm,
Nobody talks about you being fit or you being in a state of uh, what you could say, state where you feel that you are healthy and you are able to work properly or do things properly, right? It's not black or white as such. There are many shades which come in when we talk about holistic health. Do you have the peace of mind to do more things? Do you sleep well? Do you eat properly? Do you have a good bowel movement, for all I care, right? So many things which come into it, right?
right.
And surprisingly, close to 30% of the population out there doesn't sleep properly, right?
Hmm.
take you for consideration. You sleep, you have bad sleeping habits. You sleep off by 12, get up by 8, right? Uh, that's not right. You eat
Mm.
because of your work, which you have. You don't have consistent timings for eatings, right? Chai, sutta are very common things that everybody needs, right? So try and see if ever how we can make it much more healthier, much more peace of mind, meditate, yoga, so many things which come into play over there.
Right. Right. Thank you. So we'll jump into our next segment, which is a brief introduction about Whitehall Health. But I want to spend a little more time discussing your approach and strategy, which I found very interesting. So if you don't mind sharing with the audience a little bit about Whitehall Health Plan.
Sure. So I was attracted towards healthcare somewhere in 2012 because I found that there was a need for people taking ownership of their health. But before doing that, I spent considerable amount of time in actually going on to the field level. So maybe around spent 2 years in going across close to 650, 700 villages across the length and breadth of India. Spoke to many people, right? Spent a lot of money in trying to understand that what is their meaning of health, right? And there, surprisingly, we found out that everybody wants to be healthy, but they don't have ownership of their health. It's a very strong thing that today they don't have ownership of their health means that they go by what everybody else tells them. They are not empowered to take their own decisions. They don't know what is wrong with them, right? So we came on to the drawing board and said, how come can we make best of the best solutions which are used in hospitals uh, available to them so that they know where they stand, right? And then do corrective actions, right? So our focus has always been towards chronic conditions as such, because chronic conditions roughly account to 63% of mortality in India, right? And in developed nations, it's as high as 85%, 83 to 85%. So we said that that's a huge problem. Today, we have heard that people under the age of 40 are getting heart attacks, right? There are people who are diabetic, type 2 diabetes. I'm not talking about type 1, but I'm talking about type 2 diabetes who are 17 years and upwards, right? So lifestyle has changed considerably in the past 30 years. Uh, the burden of disease because of non-communicable diseases or chronic diseases has gone up double. Chronic conditions incidentally do not have a cure, right? So if ever you are a hypertensive person, you are a hypertensive person for the rest of your life. If ever you're a diabetic, you're diabetic for the rest of your life. There is no way that you can say that I'm cured of diabetes. I haven't heard of something, right?
Mm.
We said that people get into the system when it is too late, right? People come to know that they have a heart condition after getting a heart attack, right? Or we must have heard of cases where people get a stroke because they have not managed their hypertensivity. Or just a nudge point or just something facts for you is close to 1 million people have to ampute a part of their leg every year because of diabetes, right? Uh, the largest cause of blindness in India is diabetes, right? If ever those people knew that they are diabetic, they could have done some preventive action or they could have done some course correction so that maybe that onslaught might have been delayed or might not have happened if ever they were monitoring it. That's the way we look at it. And today when we go in front of doctors, we are completely on the pedestal, right? Doctors are on the pedestal. Whatever they say, yes, we have never ever asked for a discount from a doctor. I'm sure when you go with your mom for buying vegetables, you have asked discounts from the vegetable vendor. Have you heard of a case where somebody has gone and asked a discount from a doctor? No, right? So uh, I don't want to get too much into it. They are a very integral part of our society, but they are very good in curative things. They know how to fix it, right? Nobody's there to manage it as such, and that's where our focus area has been. Primarily, we have three focus areas or three business centricities. We have one is a B2B kind of a thing where we look at a large blue collar workforce where we screen them for the risks that they have. And this is for large organizations, 20,000 employees, 30,000 employees. Could be length and breadth of India, right? Benefit that the customer gets or the client gets is they have standardized reporting systems, standardized tests, uh, quick reports, right? Everything. All our tests takes not more than 10 minutes. and the risk reporting is done then and there. The end consumer is empowered to know what is the risk that he has, and we uh, are currently in 9 Indian languages. So it's we have broken the barrier of languages as such. So consumer understands where he is. There is a consultation which happens after that. So that's one segment. The second segment is where we empower NGOs and foundations, where we train their people who go out in the community. Because we feel that India being such a large nation, we cannot reach everywhere, right? We are very good when it comes to technology. We are very good when it comes to strategizing. But at the end of the day, feet on the street, last mile connects are something which can happen through partners, right? So that's where we partner with them. The third strategy which we're piloting right now is empowering women to get trained to use this kit, and they go and service the radii or the area around where they stay,
Right.
right?
Right.
25-kilometer vicinity or look a catchment of 30,000 people kind of a thing is what they cater to. So those are the three things that, and obviously data analytics, which is happening to get further deep dive into where we are going. Stakeholders like various government organizations, hospitals, primary health centers, so they know what they should be working on and where they should be focusing their strengths on.
Wow. So, I mean, like, thank you for laying out the stakeholders and also the landscape in which your business operates, and also what is the larger look at the sector itself. So, if I remember correctly, you have you're building entrepreneurial capacities in your
Yes.
partner organizations, and the field team that you have is actually someone whose livelihoods are driven very entrepreneurially, where you empower them with the technology, the knowledge, the entire process you have standardized, and you give regional support. So anyone with, I think, a 12th standard pass could possibly be adopted and groomed into this
Yes.
project. I think it's fascinating the way I see the elements of like a mature business in a startup. That is, one segment is that you understand who your consumer is, and you've designed your project in such a manner that you have a channel partner. The channel partner is someone that you sufficiently empower with technology, knowledge, and resources. The the connection is between the Vitor Health institution and the brand, and all the technology and on the cloud services, and you have SMS prompts and many different things that you have mentioned to me in the past. And it makes it very convenient and scalable. I think that scalability component that you have built by design, by intent,
Yep.
going with partners by design, by intent. How do young entrepreneurs plan for this? Because they might not necessarily have the experience or the exposure that you and your co-founders have in this.
What I could only tell about the young entrepreneurs or startups who want to get into this space is, don't use a technology first approach. Use a
Mm.
problem first approach. Because, technology with today's hardware available, software available, skills available, right? Building that component is really easy, right? But understanding what is the market, what is the need out there, uh, is is extremely important. Now, are we trying to solve a problem, or is there a need for a solution? That is what is important, and then you get into the want that I want that solution kind of a thing, right? Uh, Go in for a design element which says that what is it, who's my user, right? So today we have design thinking as a concept, which is extremely important, where we define who's the user and go through the whole personas and so on and so forth. That's a very good start to happen. But don't do that inside a room. Go out, meet people. Because there are so many variables out there which we might not have factored in. People don't factor in, right? A simple example could be if I'm just talking about from our study, right? If ever it's in a rainy kind of a scenario, what does the entrepreneur do? Right? They can't travel, and especially when it is pouring, right? In certain parts of India, it pours. Flooding happens and so on in the rural areas and so on. So how do you mitigate those thinking? Because that is something which will never come up inside a design thinking kind of a
Right.
process. Right? So
The ground reality is
the ground
which
reality.
way.
So that's where I would suggest that spend a little bit more time in going on to the ground, talking to like-minded people. There are fellows who are experts out there in each and every field. There's no harm in saying that, but I don't have all the answers.
Right.
Let's talk and find out if ever we can find some answers, is what it is. System should be scalable by design from the very beginning. Don't look at the fact that I'm going to cater to 100 customers or 200 customers or 1000 customers. Then I will come back and redesign my system, because then it is, it's trying to tweak around with or repair a motor which is already running. You can't do changes, right? We have seen that enough and more times. So I would suggest that look at India is a large market. Look at how are you going to cater to 1/10 of the population. And today, on-demand services does not or gives you the benefit that you don't have to put that kind of money on the table, right? You don't have to take a complete server. You can say that I'm going to take on any of the cloud services. I'm going to go with one CPU with this kind of storages, with this kind of memory, and so on and so forth, right? So think on scaling up the system based on whatever is in the limitations that you are available with, right? You can start off with basic free space to start off with, right? Amazon allows you that, and then scale it up over a period of time and talk to them saying that, now I have reached out to 500,000 customers. How do I scale it up? They also would be willing to help you out, right?
So like a collaborative co-creation approach.
Absolutely. A good word to use over there would be collective intelligence as such, which I'm a strong proponent of.
Okay. And I think there's a punchline that we haven't yet approached, which is that the way the price segment that you went on for that. I remember when we spoke, I was like, Milind, these premium things and the convenience that you're doing, why don't you go into South Bombay or like, into a more affluent space? And you're like, that's not my interest, Kiran. And you were looking at the bottom of the pyramid, basically saying that the scale that you can operate here, and like when they say that if you want to build $1 billion, ask every Indian to give you 1 rupee.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, by philosophy and by design, we started off with, if ever you look at the pyramid, right? So obviously you have the affluent class, and they are serviced, right? Today, they can go to a yoga class, or they can go to any of the large, expensive hospitals. They have doctors who are their good friends and so on and so forth, right? The middle segment, which is the aspirational class, right, are the segment which earns anything between 10,000 to 100,000 rupees, right, a month, so to say. Their aspirations are to reach over to that and have doctor on demand and so on and so forth, but that does not happen, right? Today, not many people can afford a ICU room at just slopes of the world, right? Nor do they want to get serviced over at the ESIS or the government hospitals and so on and so forth, right? And that's where this whole middle segment hospitals which have come in, which are large bedded, 200, 300 bedded hospitals, they have a collective pool of doctors and so on and so forth. So that's a segment which we feel is very right for us, and obviously the underserved segment, which is 70% of our population, right? Today, 70% of our population out of the 1.3 billion that we talk about is beyond tier 2 as such. And that's an underserved segment. For them, the closest primary health centers are between 16 and 24 kilometers. Now that would mean, or that would entail a travel time of anything between 2 to 4 hours just to go and meet a doctor. And you're not really sure whether the doctor is going to be there, right?
Yeah.
And then the doctor will tell you, go and get this test, so on, so forth, so on, so forth. And if ever you're a senior citizen, you're going to take someone with you, so there is a cost associated with that. So we said, let's revisit this problem by, can we get the water to the horse, right? Obviously, in need, if ever you're sick, you need to go to a doctor, right?
Right.
So you understand where you are. Now, if ever you were to look at it, 90% of the time, you really don't have to go in front of a doctor, right? And that's what telemedicine has proved us because of COVID, right? You get your consultations, you tell the doctor that this is what is wrong with me, these are my symptoms, and he could prescribe. Unless and until there is a skin disease, or you're broken a bone, or you're going to have a delivery, or you're having a major issue like a heart attack or something like that, it's not necessary for you to go in front of the doctor, right? There are consultations and पेट दर्द है, पीठ में दर्द है, जुलाब hai, right? The doctor can give you medications then and there, right? So we said, first of all, let's try to empower these people and say, boss, you are at risk of this. Can you do course correction on this, right? And that is available at your doorstep at a price point which is 1/10 today. So we, okay, I'm just going to throw some numbers that we work on. We do our complete risk assessment at 200 rupees, right? Today, this includes your heart risk assessment, your respiratory risk assessment, your hypertension, your diabetes, then your hemoglobin, then your vision test, anthropometrical test, right? Your oximetry and so on and so forth. Now, if ever you were to go out there and get this done, just an ECG would cost you anything upwards of 450 rupees, right? I'm talking about uh, the range as such, a good
Right.
range, right? And then you would have to go and take that report to a doctor. The doctor will look at it and say, oh, everything is fine or not fine, and do this, falana, dhimka. What we are saying is, can this test happen out of the hospital, right? So today, banking, if ever you were to look at a good example, when was the last time you went to a bank?
Long ago.
Right, precisely because all your banking is available to you at your fingertips. Right?
Right.
The same thing is what we are saying is, can we make health available to you, understandable to you? You own that health, right? So that you can take corrective actions, and you are the best decision maker to go to a doctor at that moment in time.
Right.
That's the philosophy that we started off with. So yeah, 200 rupees is what we work on as an end user consumer product.
So one elephant in the room is obviously the COVID crisis and what took place or is taking place across the country. Some words of wisdom for you for building or testing resilience in these times, and also any inputs that you can share about the from being someone in the sector about what we can learn from this crisis, or what we um, like what would you look back and do things differently if you knew some crisis like this was taking
You know, COVID was a joker in the box, right? Nobody knew when it hit us, or what was it, at least initially, right? We all looked up to WHO saying that they are going to give us answers to it, and they themselves have really messed it up. Right? If ever you, so what as a organizations, what we decided was somebody is going to go out and jump into the pool, right? So I volunteered at the local PHC.
Hmm.
My focus was to understand what the consumer feel is, the fear factor is, what are the processes, what are happening, and so on and so forth. So that's what I did. Vikram was the scapegoat. He eventually had COVID. Vikram is my co-founder, and Tarun was the one who
And he's
was
making a full he's made a full recovery now.
absolutely.
This
And Tarun, the doctor in the family, was part of forums with other doctors as to what do they make out of it, right? So we
hmm.
tried to understand the whole food chain around it. What we have understood, or what, if ever you were to look at the underlying factor of COVID, is COVID doesn't kill you by itself because you have COVID. Right? COVID is something which aggravates your pre-existing condition. Right? So if ever you have a respiratory problem, it aggravates it more. You have a heart problem, it aggravates it more. If ever you have diabetes or you have any other problem, it aggravates it more, and that could lead to mortality. Right? This is just the first thing that we have seen. There are discussions, or there are rumors around that there is bacterial infection which is going to come. There is more other infections which are going to come. So what we have learned is, and what we have also seen, it was that it did not reach out to the last mile, right? The whatever actions were done by the government were not available to remote locations. So feet on the street is extremely important, right?
There's a massive crunch of human resource also,
Yes,
like both from
yes,
doctors, health workers, support, infrastructure. I think the whole crisis exposed our Achilles heel, so to speak.
absolutely, right. And you know, with COVID coming in, there are going to be a lot more of these, right? So it's going to be a sword of Damocles, which is always going to be on our heads. What we really need to do is, we have close to lakh and 50,000 primary health centers. We have a lot more last mile clinics and so on and so forth. How do you empower them and build up a structure which is using technology so that reporting happens extremely fast, right? So course corrections can happen very, very fast. That's what we have learned, and we think that's the way to go. Government has done a good initiative by setting up the health stack, so to say, so that the data comes to them, and there is online dashboards which tell them where what is happening in real time. Yeah, let's see how that goes. But most important would be the last mile connect is what we see, because people have understood during COVID that you cannot wait for you to fall sick and do a test then, right? There have been queues of people at the primary health centers If ever you were to look at online consultations have gone up phenomenally. 300% is what I have heard, right? Of people trying to understand whether I have COVID, am I at risk, and so on and so forth, right? So I think that the tide has changed from being a lot more curative to a lot more preventive or preemptive kind of a thing, which is good for the humanity as such.
Um, the our punchline is powering prosperity to startups. So with this aspect, how would you say that 2020, 2021, how would you want to be superpowered as a startup? Um,
Okay, first and foremost, we would like to erase 2020 out of the whole scenario, right? Except for the learning part of it. But yeah, 2020 hasn't been great for any of us as such, especially startups. But 2021, I think, is going to be a lot more optimistic views around it, especially from the health tech point of view, where it's proven that digital health is going to be the norm over there. It's proven that doctors should be used only for when in need kind of a thing, right? Which is good. So a lot of empowerment is going to happen beyond doctors, is what we see. The ASHA workers, the A&M workers could be a new breed of health workers, right? Which are going to be there. So, and solutions which are empowering them, which could also piggyback on financial inclusions, health inclusions, knowledge inclusions, right? All those things, if ever, can be delivered today to a remote location in Jumri Talaiya, right? Is going to be what is going to be important. Language is going to be extremely important. We have so many languages, we have so many dialects, and so on and so forth. And voice-based technologies are going to be extremely important. And that's what the government of India is working on with their whole new AI stack that they're talking about. So we
and
need to
also, I
create on
think
that.
our smartphones and smart technologies and these wearables or like mobile
I'm not too
applications,
gung-ho
what do you
about wearables as such. Maybe I'm a bit, maybe because my mindset is more towards the segment that I talked about, right? I don't know how many of auto rickshaw guys can afford Apple Watch, right? Mi has come out with a very interesting band, which I look forward to, the Mi 5. But again, part of it, yes, part of it, no, right? It's not going to do everything that is needed. It doesn't do diabetes, right? It doesn't
and it's
do
not an exact measurement also.
precisely. So I think that there is going to be a whole new segment of requirements which are going to be coming out, and that's where startups can fill in the blank over there. And moving towards from services or service plus product is going to be the way to do things with a strong support of AI and so on and so forth.
Amazing. So we have social entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, we've got health focused segment, I think Vitor and your work in preventive healthcare. And I think it would be extremely invigorating to see how the entrepreneurial spirits respond to this opportunity and challenge. I think we are looking at some unicorns emerging from this segment, I would hope.
Fingers crossed.
But
Fingers crossed.
all right, cheers. Thanks, Milan. I think that we can conclude, but before we leave, if you have any last thoughts, uh,
My two bits to the startup ecosystem is let's go for it. Right? Today, age being on your side, you can define what is my affordable loss. Say that I'm going to allocate a year onto this, see how it goes. Right? Nothing happening, come back to where you were. Right? It's just a year. But if ever you succeed, that's going to be helping a lot, not just in creating wealth for yourself, but making a change to the society at large. So if ever you have both those focuses in play, I guess you have a winning strategy, right? It's don't try to sell uh, what you napkins on the web kind of a thing, right? Look at the larger segment of out there whom you got to cater to.
right. All right. Thanks, Milan. I
Thanks.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers, then.
Bye.